Hello and welcome back to Santa Cruz.
And here we
Voice.
are rocking.
You rocking.
Right. With some surf-ish kind of music.
Surfish kind of. It was the Dick Dale vibe is what I wanted. Something that said Santa Cruz but wasn't the Beach Boys. And
so different.
I'm sure there's a lot of selections in between. This is Think Local First Radio here on Santa Cruz Voice. Again, my name is Susan O'Connor Fraser.
And I'm Tam O'Connor Fraser.
It takes longer for me. And we are in the studio and very fortunate to have Matthew Pink in with us, music director and rock band teacher at Be Natural Music. Hi, Matt.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's good to have you here.
So it was that you were fondly known as Yoga Matt.
Yes. Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
I do yoga, and my name is Matt, and it's done on a mat, a yoga mat.
Yoga mat.
So.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Tell me about how long you have been playing music, or
Gosh. Well, I started piano when I was 5 years old. My mom had me go to a neighbor's house to take piano lessons, and I would get stickers on my songs, and I would develop my repertoire from that.
Now, did you practice religiously like the piano teacher wanted you to?
No.
Does anybody probably in that?
Some do.
Yeah.
But you stuck with it though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, our daughter, we had our daughter go through piano lessons, and she stopped, and of course she's regretting it.
Yeah.
She regrets it.
We bought a piano. We had a piano that was like my grandmother's piano, then my father's piano, and it was hopelessly out of tune. And so we went out and we bought a piano for her, and I think she quit the next day or something.
No, it took a few weeks. But anyway.
Right.
So you've been playing music, learning music since you were 5, and how long you've been teaching it for quite a long time too.
Yeah, I've been teaching for 25 years in Santa Cruz County. I started in Boulder Creek in September 1998, and I taught piano and guitar and bass and singing, songwriting, and I would drive house to house through the county. I've been all over this county.
I bet. You're like I said, the music director for Be Natural Music. Tell me about forming the school and what drove you.
Right. It goes in two parts because I was going to Cabrillo College and I just fell into it. I happened to be a good enough teacher to teach these instruments, and I developed it from then. In 2016, I sold my T-shirt shop, and I got a storefront on Water Street, and I've been there ever since. And when I did that, I started hiring teachers. Before that, it was just me on my own, and so it just developed into a school. So now we have 11 teachers in Santa Cruz.
And recently, quote unquote, you opened another location.
Yeah, in Cupertino. It was pretty amazing. Really thanks to the cheap money during the pandemic. Government can help people, and I'm lucky and honored enough to be able to borrow money from the SBA and put it into a building up in Cupertino that was empty for quite some time on the corner of Stephen Creeks and Blaney Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And we've been there. This is our third year, really. We got it in the middle of 2021, but it took us like 6 months to get everything ready. And we're getting there. We're almost there. We're almost breaking even. We're almost, we're almost there. It's a lot.
It's scary in some ways,
I
think people don't realize how scary being a business person, and then especially when you have overhead.
Oh, yeah. We pay $10,000 in rent up there. Yeah. It's no joke.
Overhead is,
Yeah, we know that. We used to, our company, TAM Communications, used to have almost the whole 7th floor of a downtown San Jose high-rise. And, I can't even imagine today paying, because I think our rent was like $40,000 a month. And
wow.
Yeah, it was a big nut. We had 55 full-time staff, and,
wow.
it was just, you kind of almost have to put it out of your mind as you drive into work every day that you're on the hook for so much each month.
It's stressful for sure, and
Yeah.
it's a different brain for sure. I'm an entrepreneur. I have vision. I'm creative. That's what I do. So I kind of miss it because I don't practice as much in recent times, and I'm like, hey, I don't want to be the CEO of a small business. I love being the entrepreneur, but I want to. When I'm not stressed, I create.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
It's not that much different than what we do. I mean, we sit there and, and you may be in the same kind of mindset as like, I can't even imagine retiring because, the creative part of the process, even if I didn't have the business part of the process, I'd still have that creative thing of writing and producing and, having, putting yourself out there from a creative standpoint. That's a lifelong, kind of endeavor. And,
Right.
you hear these different actors that are, we were just watching, what was it, Franklin on Apple TV, which has, Michael Douglas in there and, these guys that are, up in their 70s and some in their 80s that are still acting. And,
right.
I think they'll never retire.
Well, you think about musicians that are all in their 80s now. You look at McCartney and
Is he in his 80s?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
He's
I
got
think so.
got to be up there,
Jagger.
Right. I'd like to come down in age a little bit, but Red Hot Chili Peppers are in their early 60s.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they put out 2 albums out in 2022, and they are fabulous. I missed it, and I was just, in recent months, brought to my attention by some of my students. And I'm like, oh, man, Red Hot Chili Peppers. They still have the sound, and it still sounds fresh.
Uh-huh.
And they're in their early 60s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're not going to stop.
yeah. I could never understand. I had an old friend of mine, a bandmate, who went on and became a professional musician and played in a lot of country western bands for years, and then he retired. And I asked him, so how can you possibly retire? I mean, you're a musician. You don't retire from that.
Maybe you just retire from a certain level of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He did. He quit.
Right.
He totally quit. He just stopped playing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. And you think of
Shane.
even, that was Shane, and then Pat Mosca, our friend that was with
He was a keyboardist for Greg Kihn.
Greg Kihn, and now he does marketing for,
No, he doesn't do anything anymore.
he's retired,
Yeah,
Jim?
he's retired from that.
We're a little older than you, obviously.
Yeah.
So tell me about Be Natural Music and what you're doing there in both Santa Cruz and Cupertino.
Right. So technically, we are a jazz and rock performance school. Mm-hmm. So that's where our expertise sort of, if I can say that. And I have kids who are now in their late 20s come up to me in a store who I can't recognize and go, "I used to teach me," and I'm like, "Oh, nice. Are you still playing?" It's pretty fabulous to have that. But
This is kind of like School of Rock.
It is, but we're not a huge franchise. It's international with Jack Black behind it, which would be awesome. Love the guy. I'm just sharing what I love,
Right.
and so I sit down, I play guitar chords, I start humming, I start writing. Right, so it's the amplification of that, and then you get on stage and you just kick ass. Right, I'm a little bullish. I'm kind of a hard ass a bit. Some people will say that. I was born and raised Irish Roman Catholic, so I got kind of slapped a few times. It's just, but I have so much heart into it. I want my students to be their best. I'm incredibly, invested in what people can do with music, especially now. Times are tough. You can say times are tough all the time, but
Right.
it's like you need something that is relaxing and makes you get into a good mood and be creative or feeling love and gratitude. So that's where I'm coming from, so I perform and I love to perform. And so we do recording, of course. Audio recording is very important to be a studio musician. And we do. We have Call Out to Santa Cruz Recordings. They do a lot of our recordings. and especially for the summer camps. So back to what your question is kind of an amplification from that. So I started the Real Rock Band program probably in 2008. And before that, I was just doing recitals. So I would create groups, like bands, just for a recital, like at Loud Nelson. And then I was like, hey, we should have bands year-round. And, hey, these bands should have band page, and, hey, they should get media. Let's try to get high-quality photos and audio recording and 7 video angles on stage. I mean, I've been learning as I go along.
Right.
Because I don't know what I'm doing. I just ask questions. I find people who know what they're doing. I hire those people. And I'm hoping to get along with them because if we can't have fun, what's the point?
What's the point? Right. Life's too short.
Right. So the band program is now 13 bands in Santa Cruz.
Oh.
It's been 13 bands. I used to teach all the bands. Now I only teach 5. I don't even teach lessons that much anymore. Because I hired teachers. And then I wrote down how I teach. And how I teach is, you want a holistic approach. You want to be able to do your warm-up exercises. You want to make sure you're holding your pick correctly. You want to make sure you're playing the keys correctly. You want to make sure your shoulders are not up because it's going to cause problems when they get older. You want to do some theory. You want to learn scales. You want to learn the names of them. You want to learn some songs that are in those keys or scales. And then you want to learn a song that you listen to on Spotify and you love. Mm-hmm. And so you want to get these different aspects, and it's called the 1/3 rule. I mean, it's not like anything new really, but so many teachers out there just teach one thing, or like, okay, we're going to play Enter Sandman. I'm going to teach you the whole time instead of going, well, what key is Enter Sandman in? Let's look at those scales. Let's look at those patterns, and then you can expand that out for 45 minutes or an hour. And so, and really moving to Cupertino really made me dial that in because they don't know me up there. And so I had to make trainings, and I'm still making trainings. And I have to think, what do I do in this position? How do I teach? And so I'm in the middle of doing that. And that's really important to have a full learning experience, not just playing power chords and that's it. But
well, it's also good for you to kind of have all your staff on board for, the MAT way to do things, so that people know that when they come to be natural, that they're going to, this is what they're going to walk out with, or Absolutely. Maybe not walk out with. But
no, you're right. It's the vision.
Right.
And that's the entrepreneur part of myself. This is the vision I have, and that vision's expanding, and I teach that to my teachers, and they love it, and they join in with it, and I help shape it. And everybody can expect, hey, you're going to learn some technical stuff and some discipline stuff, but you're also going to have fun. Mm-hmm. And, when you listen to some of the songs, not picking on anybody, but, we get kids come in, especially in Cupertino, which is pretty high discipline there.
Yes.
Right.
Compared, and you get a kid working on this line that they have to do in an ensemble, and you it's not very good. The song sounds terrible. You don't say anything. Then you can see it in the kid's face. They don't want to be doing that. It's good for them for discipline and to do things that they're not used to doing. But you got to make room for stuff that makes them feel good. Because you don't want to just 100% discipline, you got to do this, and you can't have fun. Because, again, what's the point?
Right. Well, we actually are going to have to take a break right now. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what your students come in with, and as far as their skill sets and how you build on that, and learn more about the bands, past and present. So this is Susan O'Connor Frazier on Santa Cruz Voice. Think Local First. We will be back after some messages from our sponsors.
The votes are in. Chef Ben here from Back Nine Grill and Bar at the Easy Off Past Tempo exit. We are so proud of our food and our service and your votes. Back Nine has been voted Santa Cruz County's best burger and best happy hour in the good times. You've heard me talking about our house ground burgers. It's time for you to come and try one so you can taste the juicy difference. And what makes our happy hour the best? You have to come and experience it yourself. See you at the 9.
Hi, folks. How many of you out there love to garden? Wouldn't it be nice to grow some of your own food? Or maybe a flower garden would brighten your day. Well, now you can have the pleasures of gardening without all that effort. You don't need a tractor. You don't need a rototiller. All you need is the Knox Garden Box, a heavily constructed, portable, elevated garden on legs that can virtually change the way you've gardened in the past. The Knox Garden Box can be set up anywhere. Yes, you can place it right on concrete. For those with bad backs, you've got critters and gophers, no space, or maybe no dirt. With the Knox Garden Box, the therapy of garden is now the prescription for good mental health. The way to find your fabulous Knox Garden Box is by logging on to knoxgardenbox.com. That's KNOX, gardenbox.com. Or by calling 831-461-9430.
You never get a second chance to make a good first impression. When you want to make a good first impression, start with Dynamic Press Angelo.
Dynamic Press can take care of every printing need, from business cards to stationery, apparel, mailings, brochures, everything but money.
When you want to make a good first impression, start with Dynamic Press in Santa Cruz.
479-7920. dynamicpress.com.
Hello and welcome back. This is Susan O'Connor Fraser.
And Tam O'Connor Fraser.
We are in the studio here at Santa Cruz Voice. This is the second hour of our Think Local First programming. And we have in the studio with us a yoga mat. No. Matt Pink,
Yep.
And he's
Matthew Pink. Yep.
Matthew Pink, and he's the music director and the rock band teacher at Be Natural Music, which is here in Santa Cruz. Been here for a while. Recently, or a couple years ago, they opened a second location in Cupertino, so with the kids that come in to and that sign up for Be Natural Music, what level of skills do they typically have?
Right, every different type in the book, and usually, especially today, you got YouTube and you got way more than that. I mean, when I was 13, I'm from Southern California, Riverside, and I'd go into Stater Brothers to look into a guitar magazine and write on a little piece of paper the tab. You know, it's like we are so past that, and these kids have no idea. So you get kids that come in that know certain things, and we need to qualify them. We need to review what they're doing, and every teacher needs to go, okay, they know a couple scales. They have no idea what they're called. They're holding their pick kind of weird. They think their first string is their sixth string. You know, stuff like that. Just basic communication on the instrument that will allow them to communicate with somebody else, anybody else to play music. So somebody will come in, they'll be able to play an Enter Sandman, and that's it. And we're like, well, do you know what key it's in? I don't know. Well, let's show you the E minor scale, Hey, there's a picardy third in there. What's that? It's a major third. It actually goes between E minor and E major. There's some fun stuff going on here, and let's talk about that because it's fun. So you get different kids,
Right.
And we do have a music exploration class, and I have to put a shout out to my wife, Sarah, who got married finally in 2022. She wears the rainbow dress with the rainbow hair, she plays saxophone. Her and I busk, and we've traveled around the world actually busking and have had the best time of our lives. That's
nice.
Another story. We did that on our honeymoon, started in Amsterdam and ended in Ireland, but we were so lucky to do that. But she teaches the music exploration class in Santa Cruz and in Cupertino, and that's for kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, depending on which class. And they explore music. They explore bells. They explore piano. They sing. They dance. They put color to tone, sound. Start mix, parallel with the senses and stuff like that. Pretty cool stuff, and the kids love it. So just so you know, that's kind of a starting spot for the younger kids,
Right.
But for the older ones, I mean, we get kids, or not just kids, but we get adults, or college kids that are like, hey, I have this, or this performance. I need help with this specific thing, and we'll focus just on that.
Right.
Of course, 'cause that's why they're they're here. So
Now you're unlike some schools. You have your focus is rock and jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why not classical or country or any of the other genres?
well, let's talk about that, shall we?
Okay.
Okay, in Cupertino, there's probably a classical school on every corner.
Starbucks, then the
dude, it's like a Starbucks. Yes. And it's great, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love classical. I mean, give me Rachmaninoff any time of the day. You know, give me the dramatic stuff, or give me Mozart. Love the movie Amadeus. Back in the day, I rewatched it recently.
Yeah,
just love it. So why not? Well, let's look at jazz. I mean, jazz in part comes from classical. It has the fundamentals. But they took each chord and said, "Hey, what can we do with each chord?" I mean, there's culture and there's racial and there's all kinds of things that come with it for sure. But if you look specifically at that view of, hey, you need to know your C major scale, which is classical, right? Western classical music. Indian classical has twice as many. They have the microtones, right? So you have the Western classical. So it comes from that. So we use a metronome, for exercises, for scales. I really demand that. Now, not everybody does it, but most of the kids and adults do that because it's just the metronome just really makes you so good and so tight. So it does. So there is classical in there. But jazz is so much more exciting. So like when I went to Cabrillo, I went to UCSC, UC Berkeley. I ended up getting my degree in Skidmore College in Saratoga Springs, upstate New York.
Interesting.
20 years ago, my goodness. But Cabrillo was fabulous. I took everything Ray Brown offered. And Ray Brown was the arranger for the Count Basie band. Oh, wow. He was on the bus, Jeez. He's a solfeggio master. And I believe he recently retired, but love that guy and everything he had. So I learned jazz improvisation and all that stuff. So it's got a connection to it, but let's talk about it. Jazz and rock, well, and everything in between. We have a band, one of our 13 bands in Santa Cruz is called Le Son, French for sound. Le Son plays ska jazz. So ska jazz is like a subcategory of ska and jazz, but there's a really popular band, I believe it's called the New York Ska Jazz Ensemble. Might have mixed up the words, but they got some great arrangements, and like Take 5 and 4, you got the Dave Brubeck Take 5 starts with that, and then all of a sudden it takes us to 4, and all of a sudden we're in a reggae, and it's like it's pretty cool. We actually have some pretty cool videos. And I happen to be the guitar player for that band right now. I just have to admit, which is really, it's great. I'm so grateful. I mean, we're looking for a guitar player to take my spot, but in the meantime, I will happily take that spot and work on my own chops. And a lot of music is modern music. You've got Disney and stuff like that for mostly the younger kids that want to sing and pop music. You can't get away from pop.
Right.
And they'll be like, "Oh, how do we play that?" And it's fun because we go, "Wow, this music is really produced. Like it's got a million things on it." But really, it's this 4-chord or 3-chord progression. It's really actually simple. And let's look at the melody that sticks out to our ears, and let's just focus on those two things. So it's not just jazz and rock. Mm-hmm. I got my degree in jazz guitar, but I was brought up on Black Sabbath and Metallica.
The music I asked to be turned down.
Yes, and that does happen. We run into certain issues around town sometimes because we have out of 13 bands, 3 or 4 of them are pretty heavy. The other bands. I mean, there's a lot of indie. We have a lot of indie music, and so we have the in betweens. It's not rigid,
So when you say 13 bands, are these bands that started at Be Natural and that you've continued to nurture? And
yep.
Did they were they a band before they came to you?
Sometimes, not very many. Sometimes we'll have a garage band come to us. We'll have the parents bring them in. It's just that we offer this whole package. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This whole deal. It's like, and I keep telling the kids, I'm like, there's adults that don't even have what you have. Have you even been to your page? It's like, so our spring season just ended on May 5th. We also have a show on Kids Day on June 22nd because May 4th, it rained. South Lake Tahoe, we had like 26 inches of snow. I'm a snowboarder. And I was like, May 4th, just got a lot of snow. Anyways, so they pushed it out to June 22nd. That's a lot of fun. We'll have 6 bands.
This is the Kids' Day that's happening downtown Santa Cruz.
So much fun. There's schools, an event. It's a huge event. There's thousands of people. They close off Cooper Street. I think they should have it in June, to be honest, because it's just, it's just fun. So you're saying the 13 bands. Sorry, trying to make sure I don't get off the point here. But we just finished our spring season, and that ended at Abbott Square on Sunday, May 5th. Yes, that's right. And we were at Bruno's the weekend before it. And so we have 4 or 5 shows. The last 2 shows are production shows where we record everything. And then we have a rap week, which was a couple weeks ago. And then we do song suggestions, and we continue during the summer. So, yeah. I'm getting off track.
You have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Gee, Benny.
Yeah. And now we're getting ready for summer camps,
yeah,
which is June and July.
And so explain the summer camp situation.
Yeah, the summer camp. Well, let's see. Compose a song, right? Composition. That's wonderful. There's a lot of ways you can compose, right? And I want to give kids a choice because, again, I already gave this away. I love playing guitar, and I love just humming and singing. That's a lot of times that's where I start. I also start by writing poetry, and I'll bring that, and I'll try to work the phrases out. So those are kind of my 2 ways of how I compose. Other kids are different. Maybe a bass player is just working on their bass line or a drum beat or some cool thing or something like that. But so what we do is we take a group of kids. We'll have 5 kids groups. Not 5 kids, sorry. It'll be 24 kids, 5 groups. I believe it starts the week of June 24th. It's packed. I think we only have 1 opening for a drummer, but there's 5 groups. So they all have their teacher. They come with their ideas. The first day, I go about how we're going to do the week. They start writing the song with their teacher. By the end of Tuesday, while they're writing their song, they write a video script. So they're like, they have an opening of a breakup. I'm just giving an example. Oh, yeah, I broke up with my boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And, well, what does that look like? I don't know. What does it look like? And I'm like, well, what if you're holding your hands and then you slap the hand away? And that's like together and not together. And that slap is like that threshold in between. And so they're writing the visual of what they're doing. Now, we're not doing CGI. So if it gets too abstract, then it could get lost. But if it's specific, you have a kid, then we take a lot of B-roll. You get on the parking lot and riding a skateboard. You come up on your skateboard. You open the door. The music starts. And then we have this gentleman who does our video editing named Stephen Holm. Shout out. He has had all 3 of his kids in our program over the last 20 years.
Uh-huh.
So, and he loves doing that work because it's creative. So we send him the audio, rough scratch of the audio, and then like, this is what happens in the intros, what happens in the verse. And then he sends it back. I consult the teacher, get feedback, and then we finish it. It's amazing.
Oh, fun.
And I don't know anybody else doing that. Of course, people are doing composing.
Right.
But composing with some form of visual is what we're doing in our summer camp. And that's what I think makes us special.
How long is this camp?
1 week. 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's 15 hours. And on Friday, we're at Santa Cruz Recordings on the west side off Fair. And we start at 9 a.m. and they do live band recordings in there. So they'll do a couple of takes. We'll isolate, ISO booth for the vocals. So they're not, so we're not doing a full, if like you separate the band and all. But bands want to record in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, and we do that on stage too when we do the production shows. And
they're getting great exposure in terms of how to.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And I buy them pizza at the end. It's fun. Then I take all the teachers out to the crepe place.
So it's just 1 week in the summer. You don't have every week.
No. I mean, we're trying to figure out if we want to expand it to a 9 to 3 or something. 'Cause there's a lot, but no, we have one at the last week of June, and then we have one in Cupertino, but it's only one group of 4 or 5 kids. Mid-July, July 15th, the week of, and then the week after that, we have our second camp back in Santa Cruz, and it's just packed.
Yeah, I bet.
And so it's working. So. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, well, what should we do here? I mean, if we expanded it, when you expand hours for kids, you have to have a lot of break times. You have to have a lot of social break times. And we have, so we don't have a huge, lot that's fenced in. We're not a daycare necessarily, But a playground wouldn't be bad.
What's the average age for this group?
Gosh. I mean, it goes up to 17 probably. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of split. And maybe half of our bands, maybe be like half of our bands that already exist will join it. Maybe they'll have the full band together, so it's a band doing it. Or maybe it'll be part of a band and part new kids. But we get like the other half are new kids, and they'll start new bands after that. I mean, to be honest, I didn't want to go over 13 bands. But now I'm like, we should see what we can do with this because we're getting so much demand for it.
Now, will they age out?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we have kids that are 19 that are in some of our stuff.
As long as they're still in their teens.
Right. Yeah, well, it can't be 21 buying beer for the kids. So that's kind of our cutoff. I mean, like the jazz band, we have a jazz band called Fuzz. And that's been around since 2017. And those kids will go up to college level because, and we'll share them with Kumwa Jazz. Right. And because it's jazz. Same thing with Lassonde, too.
So what happens to these kids when they age out? How many of these bands stay together? And
well, I'm still finding that out. Can I give it some shout outs? Because I do have, so there's a band called Trestles.
Yes, I know them. Actually, I know someone that's in that band.
Jackson Jones was in our program for 4 years. And he's our guitar player. Great guy, just a great human being, and a really awesome guitar player. We also have Milena Clark. She's the drummer, but she's also a guitar player and a vocalist. She was in our program for, I believe, 7 years.
Yeah, I just saw a music video they did recently for Trestles, I think.
Yeah, they do have something new coming out right now.
This is Lynn Johnson from KSBW's son, who's been in some of our television commercials we've done.
Oh, that's cool. Well, they're definitely worthwhile. I really appreciate them.
And they've stayed together, and they're getting gigs.
They're getting a lot of gigs. They pack in places all over Northern California.
Right.
I just know once Jackson graduated, I think he graduated Santa Cruz High, and his parents moved up to Washington. And he was up there for a little while, and he just came right back down. Because then you realize... if you don't know anybody, when you have a support group of a lot of friends, I mean, you don't want to go on Craigslist, which is what I did back in the day, as adults, looking for a bass player.
Right.
And it's like, you know how it is. 18 and 19 is terrible ages, really. Because, you go from a wealthy, I don't know, wherever you're coming from, but you're like, all the support, and then all of a sudden you're an adult, and you're expected all the stuff, and it's really rough. So it's a hard age, and several of our students have gone to colleges, Colorado, San Diego,
I bet, yeah,
Berkeley, but yeah, there's been a few that I've caught up with that are in bands, so it warms the heart for sure.
Now you have on your website, you have not only your the bands that you have, but you have your, I guess, Rest in Peace bands and that.
Oh, you got that.
I need to go to break, and when I come back, we can talk a little bit more about that. So stay tuned for that. So this is Susan O'Connor-Fraser here at Santa Cruz Voice for Think Local First. I'm here with my co-host,
Tam O'Connor-Fraser.
We got to get some word from our sponsors, and then we'll be back. So don't go away.
Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
When your business is on the move, you must find the right place for it to move. Let's ask Matt Chelton, General Manager of J.R. Parrish, the big question: what is the right place to move one's business?
Location, location, location. Sometimes it's rent, Sometimes it's the fact that there aren't that many buildings available to suit you, but mostly it's location of your customers, location of the principals, location of your employees.
Move it to the right place with the help of the power brokers at J.R. Parish in Santa Cruz.
When you need help managing your estate, call on the Angel.
Hello, I am attorney Angel Hess, and I am ready to help. Whether you need a will or a trust, a guardianship or a conservatorship, or if you are managing the financial affairs of a loved one, I will help you with over 7 years' experience working in estate planning and probate fields.
When you need help, call on the Angel, attorney Angel L. Hess at santacruzlegal.net.
Charlie Hong Kong is here to nourish you with our healthy noodle and rice bowls, abundant with local organic produce grown in nutrient-dense soil, as well as soups, sandwiches, salads, and our special ginger lemonade. All are welcome to enjoy our patio or to go. Order in person or online, corner of Soquel and Seabright. Charlie Hong Kong, nourishing our community one bowl at a time.
Hello and welcome back to Santa Cruz Voice and Think Local First. We're in the studio today with, this is Susan O'Connor Fraser.
And Tam O'Connor Fraser with B Music, Matt.
Be
Yoga.
Natural Music.
Be Natural Music.
Matthew Pink is with us. We were just talking about the 13 bands in Santa Cruz, and I noticed that on their website they have bands from the past, and you were saying that the page isn't necessarily current.
I'm pretty busy.
Yeah.
We do have some bands from the way back, like from 2008, that I'd like to give some shout outs to.
Sure.
But we had Slime, a band called Slime.
A band called Slime.
Yes, and they were together for like 5 or 6 years, and yeah, so they were just like these slime ball kids. They're like 12, and they were just like singing all these songs and.
That's crazy. How young were you when you were in your first band, Tam?
I was 10.
You were 10.
Oh, wow.
That was in Hollywood, right?
Yes, I was in Hollywood, and our first song that we learned was Louie Louie.
Louie.
Of course. Yeah, perfect.
That's so easy.
And then Gloria.
Yeah, of
nice.
course.
We bank with Santa Cruz County Bank, shout
Yes.
out to them. And Angelo Diabardi is one of the execs there, and his kid was with us for 5 or 6 years. And I just reconnected with the dad at the bank, and it was just, you could see our eyes are just getting all watery. Thinking back to those days, it's like,
I got something in my eye.
Right. Pretty much. So, yeah. But you were talking about like Jackson Jones, Melina Clark. They were in Diamond Wire. Well, Jackson Jones was in Diamond Wire, and that's, I'm pretty sure, on the site. And then Melina Clark was in Meh. And her dad named it because they weren't coming up with a name. So he's like, Meh. And she's like, fine. And we made this really cool, it's like a guitar logo with Meh inscribed in it. And I'm like, what a perfect teen name.
Wow.
It's like Not My Fault. She was in a band called Not My Fault before that with Brooke O'Brien. Shout out to Brooke O'Brien. And that was a perfect name. They were together for 5 years.
So are you creating, they're creating web pages or social media pages or what? Because you talk about graphics or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have they don't create the websites, although they may say, hey, we're going to do a Instagram or a TikTok page or whatever for the band, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do that.
Okay.
We do their band pages. We have Foxer does our multimedia, so they update our band pages and stuff like that, and do all that stuff that's online for us.
So what about the good times that you had there?
You got a good write-up, you said.
We got a write-up. We got a cover. That's,
wow.
A cover story, which was the first time we've ever gotten that.
When was that?
May 12th, 2024.
That was just recent.
A couple weeks ago, yeah. And John, sorry if I mess up your last name, it's John Koenig. He wrote an incredible piece, and it's sweet. My brother's in it. My parents, it's because he asked me, he's like, how did you start, And I was like, really? You want me to talk about listening to Iron Man when I was 7 years old and being blown away by it? My oldest brother, because see, I'm the youngest of 3 brothers, and they're about 10 years older than me.
Oh, jeez.
So
you were exposed to...
Yeah, they were handing me stuff, and I was getting blown away by it. We don't think about it anymore. Iron Man, who cares?
Yeah,
but man, back then it was just like, whoa, this is gospel.
Yeah. So you, where was
and so
I
he spent. How long did he spend with you? To write
wow!
that?
John came and interviewed me for about an hour. Then he started to show up at bands, band classes, and so we got like band members from Lasan and Faceplant, and I think American Nightmare in there. He did a big article.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just like so grateful. And Brad over at Growing Up Santa Cruz has been so great.
Right.
So awesome.
And then you said this article actually ended up where? Over at Silicon Valley?
Yeah, and then they got it in the Silicon Valley Metro with a picture. I didn't bring it in, but it's got this cute picture of this guy, Harry, this kid Harry. He's like 9 or 10, and he's just like, it's so cute to watch the young ones on the drums that can really do it because they're barely on the throne, the seat, and they're just killing it. It's like, dang, how do you do that?
Yeah, you were talking. It's perfect that you got into the Silicon Valley Metro and then Good Time Santa Cruz, because that's where you are. You're over in Silicon Valley in Cupertino, and then here in Santa Cruz. Yes. What's that done for your business? I mean, how's the inquiries doing for new people?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that because I'll start with Santa Cruz. Yeah, we've definitely gotten an uptick in inquiries in Santa Cruz, but very specifically from kids who are probably playing in their room all day and not socializing.
Right.
So we do definitely get kids who have social anxiety. We got a bunch of those kids, and that's a huge part of what we do. They end up making friends, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, I would bet. I mean, you think about, and especially these days, so many kids have social anxieties going on.
Oh, man, they should.
Yes.
I have social anxiety just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, we've got grandkids and they've gone through, with social media and everybody knows where everybody is all the time and how, the whole FOMO thing of, that they're afraid they're being left out of, where their friends are. Why am I not there? Why didn't I get an invite? And, this. Dude,
I hear it.
Yeah, I bet.
I hear the clicks. Mm-hmm. And what's also good though is like we have kids, like shout out to Lizzie and Rowan, who are actually at the studio working. They work for us now, so now we're starting to hire
our
students because they're the best. They know everybody. They know what's going on.
And they know
can
it all.
Sell the lessons. They're like, you got to take lessons from Chris on bass. He's the best. And Kenny Valentine's.
That's one way they age out. They age.
They age in.
They age in, exactly. And so, but these kids that I'm naming, they've all developed new bands. Andrea was in Full Disclosure for 4 years. She now teaches for us. She teaches camp. She's in several bands, and several of those bands are other alumni from our school. And so, if you stop and go, "Oh wow, they're creating another new band." I mean, this is not just one band coming out. This is like a bunch of bands. And they keep crisscrossing and figuring out their chemistry and getting mad at each other or figuring out who they work better with. And I'm like, guys, adults and kids, we all do this. We all get mad. We all get upset. We're all moody. And that's okay. Friction is okay. We need some friction, but let's talk about it. Because, again, holistic. How could I pretend that we're not human beings? And let's talk about it. Because I'm a 40-something-year-old teenager, and I still... and I still want to talk about that stuff. It's like, if you got something to bring up, let's talk.
Right.
It's important. You need these skills for later, or you're going to be that guy or that gal or whatever that doesn't say anything, and you don't want to feel lonely. I come from the Irish Roman Catholic Hickey family, and the Hickeys were just notorious for being left out. And you see them now, they're in their 80s and 90s, and they're just like, they're like 3 years old.
So tell me about what you see in these kids that were, shy in their bedroom and didn't have any social skills. How do they, it's almost like a therapy program in some ways of going through some, emotional counseling. How do they change?
Right. Well, they smile. I start seeing smiles. They laugh. And like I was saying earlier, I can be a hard ass, and they know that because I want them to be good. It's from a good place. But I also sass a lot of people. And sassing is, rude and, it's loving rudeness is how I define it. And so, I want to be careful with people, especially people that are going through sensitive things and stuff like that. But I also try to set them up for life, don't take everything serious. Don't take yourself serious. Can you laugh at yourself? And so I have students that are just in the program past 18, and they've been there since they're 12 because they don't have any other groups to socialize with. So we want them in the program. And you know what, guys? I say the wrong thing sometimes. I do. And you know what? Let's talk about it. I apologize. We start again. And I want to put myself out there in that way because you think adults are perfect, and you think the way it is, that's the way it is. And it's like, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. Or, maybe that was just the wrong time, the wrong place. Or maybe I wasn't feeling very good. I wasn't feeling very good that moment. How are you feeling? And it just levels it out.
Right.
Because that's where I want to be. I don't want to just be, talking down all the time. I want to level it out. So
that's a really great life lesson, of being able to realize that adults, including your parents, let's put that in parents, right. aren't perfect, and don't have all the answers. Yeah. And, a lot of times when you're 10 or 11 years old, you think they do. And then by the time you're, 15 or 16, you don't think they have anything.
Well, you think you know everything. I say that to my teenagers, and I'm like, and they go, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right." And I'm like, "Yeah, but now you're thinking you know everything. You can't help it."
It's part of the kind of.
It's like being when you're young, you're immortal.
Yeah,
right. Kind of are.
Yeah. So what about adults? What about
We do have a lot of adults in our program.
Mm-hmm.
I know less of them because I don't teach any of them. But what I have taught a lot of adults, but not in recent times. But what I'll tell you about adults and about musicians is there is no age. Adults will cry because maybe they were yelled at when they were 3 or 5. I mean, you never know. I've made a couple parents or adults cry. And not any time recent. When I first started, I was just intense. I was just intense. You don't know. You're teaching a 4 or 5-year-old or a 40 or 50-year-old. It's very similar because you don't know what their experience is. They bring in all this baggage. They can't help it. And it's like, let's try to make them better. Let's try to get them to where they want to be. Because it can be harder, like you don't have your chops. Like you were saying earlier, if you practice that piano or if you practice like cello or violin, something's really hard. You want to do that early so you don't have to go through it again. What adult has that time to start, later?
So what is the hardest instrument to learn?
I don't know. I brought up those instruments because it's about intonation. And so we play on fretted instruments, and people don't really realize this, but you need intonation. And I'm not a luthier. I talk to a lot of luthiers, but you want to make sure that you're hitting A, and it's not A slightly sharp or A slightly flat. And that's why you need to get your instruments new setups a couple times a year. Especially in the spring after the rain and stuff, because wood expands. Mm-hmm. But that's why I don't play or teach cello or violin. I just know because the intonation, they have to have their fingers in the right spot. And if your guitar or your bass has got good intonation, then you're fine. Because you don't push down on the fret, you push below the fret. Right. So you're just trying to get it to hit the fret. The fret is that pitch. So that's why it's complex. But I can't answer that.
Well, I'm just curious, because, like, for instance, if you're learning to play piano, you have to use your right brain and your left brain.
Yeah.
Right. With guitar, it's not quite the same.
No, you're right. You're right. It does. You do have that mix of your brains, for sure.
So your favorite instrument is the guitar? No? Maybe?
Well,
don't tell your piano teacher.
Look, I started guitar as a teenager. I think I've been playing for 30-something years. I love guitar because I grew up on Randy Rhoads, David Gilmour. I mean, my God, fantastic. I mean, this stuff made my body shake, So, of course, guitar. But I love voice, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I grew up like that. So I'd play guitar, I'd sing, and I would write. And then I became bass by default. And I've been playing for Fuzz for the last year and a half on bass, and I'm hoping to get replaced soon. But that made me a jazz bass pocket player, and that was great.
It's funny how a lot of bass players go by default.
Right. But then you hear, but if you listen to a band without bass, or bass frequency at all, you're like, dude,
you're missing it.
You can't do this.
Yeah.
And in rock
and
roll music, the drummer's the timekeeper. In jazz, it's the bass. So those are really important. So we can sit and talk about each instrument, in particular.
So what do you think of this new technology that you can actually sing an instrument? Some of the software that's coming out where you can kind of I can hum a song and I can hum and it'll sound like a guitar, or I can make it sound like a piano. Isn't that kind of wild?
It is wild. I mean, there's a lot of new technology out there, and it's just synthesized. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of it. I thought you were going to go into pitch correction.
Well, then there's that.
Auto-tuner and stuff like that. It's like,
oh,
well, you can't even sing in pitch, and your tone isn't very good either.
But it don't matter. I'm going to run it through the little box here.
I mean, it's interesting. I always find it interesting that these older rockers will talk about the music of today as if it's like, with a certain amount of disrespect for it. And
the world's big. Like, which level do you want to talk? I mean, that's true to a certain point. Then you see these kids playing Zeppelin or playing whatever on stage, playing
Ray
John
Davies.
Coltrane. It's like, whoa, dude, that tenor sax just did that John Coltrane solo. I was like, that's amazing. So it's still there because it comes back to the roots. You're actually touching you're making the vibration. It's a physical thing. And that's incredible, and you can't beat that. But yeah, there's definitely well-deserved criticism out there, especially with AI taking your stuff and making its own. I mean, that's cool. We're going to have artificial intelligence. There's no way around it, but that's not your creation,
So what do you love most about what you do?
Oh man, seeing kids get better, see them improve. It's amazing. I mean, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky that I naturally could teach, and I can naturally do what I do because I don't know what I would do without it, So I'm just grateful for being able to teach and share my vision, and I want to really refine it and make it better and make it more accessible. By the way, we do have a scholarship program. We are a for-profit business, but we have it's called a fiscal sponsorship through the William James Association. Shout out, because they do great work in the prison system. What that does is it allows us to get donations and give out scholarships. We give out $1,400 a month just in Santa Cruz, $500 a month in Cupertino.
Wow.
And we want to expand that, and we want to create our own foundation next year.
Very good.
Just so you guys know. So that's accessibility.
Yeah.
And sorry, I want to say this. It's not because we got nonprofits doing work for kids and people who need to survive. That's incredible. We need that, but we also need to thrive.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need the kids. We need to give the kids tools to feel better and do better in life. We need them to do better in life. We need them.
Absolutely.
So we're just have about 25 seconds left. How can people find out more?
Yeah, benaturalmusic.live. Live. That's BE naturalmusic.live. And we're all over the place now online. You can find us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming in and being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate
it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
This is Susan O'Connor Frazier and on Think Local First Radio, and
goodbye.
we're done for the day.